Welcome to Unboxing What Matters, a podcast brought to you by Deraz. In each episode, we will unpack the opinions, topics, and big ideas that are inspiring and changing our world today. I am your host, Mimi Nicklin. Welcome to the show.
According to the World Bank Findex survey, 1.4 billion adults still have no access to banking. Can you start by telling us what is financial inclusivity? What does it mean? And why does that matter?
Yes, of course. Well, I equally think it's a stunning number, and it's such an important topic. I think if we look at financial inclusivity, I think it's also a bit of an isolated term sometimes. So I think I'm going to take it a little bit wider, looking at financial inclusivity, but also maybe a little bit about financial health, which I personally find as, if not more important, than just inclusivity by itself. So what is financial inclusivity? I think it's fairly simple and straightforward. It's the access to financial products, financial products being the tools that are used for borrowing, saving, and to invest money, right? So I think in a very easy way to measure financial inclusion, we can look at debit card and credit card adoption rates, for example. Higher adoption rates obviously signal a higher level of financial inclusion in those areas. So if you look, for example, at Pakistan State Bank numbers, you will see that less than 1% currently has access to a credit card, whereas about 13% would have access to a debit card, right? Which shows that there's already a massive gap to people that have access to saving products and people that have access to products that would allow them to borrow. If you would add a wallet to the equation, correct, we're going up to about late 20s, so maybe around 28, 29% of people that have access to a tool that they can utilize. I think what is important about it is that like financial inclusion is directly tied with social and economic empowerment. If you have access to a saving tool, obviously this implies that you will have, or likely will have, higher domestic saving income, correct? Equally, if you have access to better investment tools, then this would lead to investment efficiency. I think for me, what is the importance of financial inclusivity in the end is, if you narrow it down to, because we can talk about like very high level about indeed like the increase in GDP if people are financially included, but I think more importantly, if we narrow it down to maybe people that by the World Bank would be considered as the poorest people in the world, right? So I think in general the benchmark is if you earn about less than $2 per day on average, then you would be according to the World Bank, you would be indicated as poor, basically. I think a misconception is that people that have, on average, a salary of $2 per month is that they don't need access to financial services because there's not a lot of money to manage. Whereas actually the contrary is absolutely true. Because if you think about $2 a day, it's an average, correct? So there's days that there is higher income, and there's days that there is no income. Often these people have inconsistent jobs and are therefore also not prone to any financial shock that might occur. So I think the importance about that is to realize like what type of tools do they currently use informally in order to get access to financial services? Because in the end, finances become a much more central part of life. Correct. If you earn less or on average $2 a day, and tomorrow you might earn nothing, then managing your finances is going to be much more important than if you know tomorrow you're going to earn $100, for example. So there's a really interesting book which is called Portfolios of the Poor. It was actually written in I think the beginning of the century, and it looked at financial diaries in Bangladesh and India. So people that basically maintained their finances in rural villages. And they saw that the amount of informal tools that are being used, such as pawning off family assets, or having a credit line with the local grocery store, or right, so people need to borrow, they need to basically collect the money that they have borrowed, but all informally. People need to lend, but make sure that there's a repayment. People need to deposit, but also need to make sure that there's withdrawing. But there's no banks, right, and there's no tools helping them. So I think right now, a positive note, I think, is that the World Bank, like the poorest of the poor, like the people that earn less than $2 a day, has significantly improved across the world. So I think we went from, when the study was done, 1.5 billion people living under that mark to right now, I think it's about 650 million people, which is significantly improved. However, that doesn't mean that these issues still exist, and especially looking at our markets. So I think from an inclusivity perspective, speaking on a very high level, like of course we know that there's economic factors and social factors that it improves, but I think from a much more practical level, all the way narrowed down to, and then we can obviously take the $2 as example, but also like in general lower level income countries where people, I think it indicates that just finances are much more central in people's lives, and without the access to it, absorbing any financial shock is very difficult. I'm not sure if that's a very lengthy answer already to your question, but it's a difficult topic, right? In the sense, inclusion itself is just, do people have access, right? But with access, what do we gain in general, right? In the end, I think what we want to measure on the longer term is people's financial health. So in order to be financially healthy, we know that you need to have access to a financial product, right? So it starts with gaining access. And then it's on us, so the people that, such as Coco, right, as we are a financial services company, once we have allowed people with access, we need to ensure that also usage is being done. So if you look at India, for example, in the last 10 years, or I think in the last decade, about 48% of the accounts that were opened are dormant, right? So that means that people might have gained access, but they're not using the financial tools that they have actually created. So just looking at financial inclusivity would give you a false sort of indication of how financially healthy the country actually is, right? So from my perspective, it's our job to indeed make sure that adoption is available, right? So that people have equal access to financial tools, but then as well as that people understand them, so that we educate them and make them financially literate, that we then make sure that they adopt them in their lifestyles and consistently use them. And through that cycle, you finally end up with being financially healthy, right? With making sure that consistent, for example, savings income is translated into, in the end, being more resilient for any financial shocks, correct? And I think those two aspects for me are going hand in hand, because there are so many, I think, areas in developing markets where we say, well, financial inclusivity has increased a lot. But then actually, if you look at the bottom of the funnel, like what is being done with it, like is inclusion the goal? It's a presumption of becoming financially healthy, I guess.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Unboxing What Matters. Subscribe and follow us on social media to stay on top of all that's to come in the season ahead.